election to be president of the United States of America.
Well, there it was last night, as Kamala Harris is the first woman of color to be nominated for the president of the United States. And I think by any objective standard, Donald Trump has a formidable opponent for the next however many days we're looking at. I'm Randy Tobler. Welcome in. Stephanie's out today. John is in. We're going to get his opinion. We're going to get Hannah's opinion, but we'll have to pull her away. We'll have to rip her away, kicking and screaming from whatever pumpkin spice favorite of the day she has. I don't know. What do you have? What's your pumpkin spice treat this morning? Is it a roll, a drink? What is it?
I had to settle for my normal energy drink this morning because the coffee shops aren't open on my way into work, which is tragic. However, probably a good thing for my wallet and my bank account and my marriage.
Well, I thought about you the other day. I was online and I found pumpkin spice air freshener, mirror hanger, tree things for your car.
Oh, man, I don't know. Don't you ever get tired of that, Miss Hannah?
No, because I waited almost a whole year for
I see.
it.
So you have all of this pent up. It's sort of like pandemic spending, all of this pent up consumer demand for pumpkin spice.
Yeah, in fact, I was so excited. I filmed my experience yesterday in the drive-thru.
That was funny.
And it didn't quite go as well as I had hoped. So you can go check that out on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page if you didn't see that already. It didn't go very well.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. It was, I think, by all objective standards, a whale of a speech. She delivered one whale of a speech. I'm talking about delivery. If any of you have maybe been in Toastmasters, perhaps you've been coaching kids in a drama club, or you've put on a pageant at your church or school. Maybe you're a drama teacher at a school. Just on now, we've talked about in the Olympics just past how they score these things. You get difficulty, and then you get form, right? Well, let's translate that a little bit and say there's content, and then there's delivery style and form.
And thank goodness we don't get scored like that.
Not after yesterday. Not after the comedian duped me into thinking he was a polyamorous guy whose wife was a black guy. Holy cow. I think on form, she got a 10. I mean, it was a beautiful speech. She got a little bit, at times, angry and too serious. Not too serious, but just too, I guess angry is the word. But, and a little too slow in the pace. But, I mean, I'm picking at the edges here. It was a whale of a speech from a delivery stance. And, again, I'm viewing it from the aspect of someone who is persuadable, some small number. What do you think? 573-874-9390. We'll be talking about that and some of the response to it, some of the other speakers of the night, as now the race is on. Well, maybe the race really isn't on until Labor Day or after, right, Hannah? I mean, maybe people take a little pause, a little break, or no?
I think in some ways the race has been going on for 2 years.
But we didn't. Well, how many of us said it wasn't going to be Joe Biden? I mean, I said that. I thought it would be Michelle, so I was wrong there.
You said that early on, though.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine, John, that I wish we could go back and play like a montage reel of, 6 weeks ago. It's like, oh, my gosh, she's the worst thing since she makes kryptonite look like pumpkin spice latte, and now she is the darling of the Democrat Party. She is the coronated second coming of the Christ. I mean, it's unbelievable.
You go back, like you said, go back 6 weeks, and she was publicly saying, I am 110% behind Joe Biden as the candidate for re-election as the president of the U.S. I'm not waiting in line to be president. I'm completely behind his candidacy.
That was the first lie of many that she then repeated last night. I mean, that was a lie. You can't tell me that she didn't have a really good bead on exactly the way the trajectory of this thing was going.
Well, you would hope so.
Oh, my gosh.
Just from her own handler's standpoint, if nothing else. Like you say, read the tea leaves.
Right. Well, in other news, there was a great Supreme Court emergency decision. Okay, if any of you who are in the General Assembly in Missouri are listening, are you listening?
Hello.
I'm sure you're aware that the Supreme Court of these United States of America, with a disappointing dissenting vote, it was 5-4, dissenting vote from Amy Coney Barrett. What? I'm so disappointed in her. What in the world did she do?
That was such a paternal sigh.
I'm very disappointed in her. I expected her to be a conservative justice. I mean, I've already ruled out John Roberts as being a great conservative justice. He throws us a bone now and then, but he's not a conservative justice. I don't know what Jesus Osete thinks about the justices. I don't know whether he'll weigh in on whether he thinks they're really conservative, on constitutional originalist or not. At any rate, a divided Supreme Court on Thursday granted a request from the Republican National Committee and Arizona's Republican leaders and their legislator, Missouri legislative leaders. Are you listening? Missouri legislative. I'm telling you, to reinstate a state law, are you listening, that requires residents to provide proof of citizenship to register to vote using a form provided by the state. When I talked to John J. Ashcroft about this, about this, he told me that in fact that's what he wants. The legislature should, the first thing, Cindy, anyone out there, please, if you're listening, please, as your first order of business this next session in November when you caucus, would you please pledge to make registration requisite only on a form provided by the state of Missouri and it requiring proof of citizenship? This should be job number one, not education choice, not voting and gambling and ranked choice, and not property tax reform, not anything else. This needs to be number one. A brief unsigned order. Thomas Alito.
I didn't get Amy Coney Barrett's take on it because she didn't elaborate.
She doesn't have to. She voted wrongly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She kind of jumped in with the liberals but didn't justify it.
I think that's cowardly. I think that the only people that signed it, I tell you, you can tell people by the way they behave and what they're willing to be transparent about. Clarence Thomas, Sam Alito, and Neil Gorsuch, they signed it. Indicated they would have granted the RNC's application to fully reinstate the law. Now, they didn't reinstate the law for that portion which would have barred voters who use the federal form. The federal form, we've talked about it. That's what's used in Missouri. And all you have to do is have a voter ID and sign that you have to attest under penalty of perjury or law, right? Well, you only would be penalized if you were a Republican and you lied. If you were a Republican-leaning Venezuelan or Mexican or China or Uzbeki who came in, Uzbeki. It sounds like a Star Wars character. Well, the Uzbekis.
Who's Becky?
Who are the little Star Wars characters? You know what I mean.
You're going to need to be more specific.
The little people. The Ewoks. Uzbeki. If you're an Ewok who's crosses the border and you are Republican leaning, you wouldn't get in trouble for coming into the state of Missouri, having some kind of a ID that you got. You could make it up. I'm sure they're not checking. They're not checking. And then all you have to do is say, I'm a citizen, and you lie. Of course, you won't be prosecuted if you're Republican leaning, but if you're Democrat leaning, you would be. I'm sorry, you would be prosecuted if you're Republican and not if you were Democrat. At any rate, that's all you need to do in Missouri to register to vote.
What did they say down in Arizona? Some of the pre-decision stuff that they said. Some of the election officials in Arizona said they estimated it was tens of thousands of people who've registered down there.
Yes, sir.
To vote in federal elections. They said there was a margin of error there, but it was a substantial amount.
Yep. The National Voter Registration Act of 93 requires states to, quote, accept and use, close quote, a standard form to register votes for federal elections. That federal form requires would-be voters to swear under penalty of perjury that they are U.S. citizens. They're not required to provide proof of citizenship. The Arizona law is known as HB 2492. It's a 2022 election. It directs county officials to attempt to verify the U.S. citizenship of anyone who attempts to register using the federal form. If they can't do so, the applicant must produce proof of citizenship. I mean, I don't know why we're arguing this, but the fact we're arguing this and the fact that Kamala Harris can say that Donald Trump was behind Project 2025 tells me that we have reached probably end stage of a society. There shouldn't be an argument about this.
Yeah, this shouldn't even be before anybody. I mean, it should just be a given. If you're not a citizen, you can still apply to vote. It's like, what sense does that make? You know, how many other countries allow that? Maybe some do, you know?
Yeah, well, if you're trying to replace the American experiment and people who believe in it with people who come from socialist or Marxist or communist countries, well, they're all sort of variations of the theme, it makes a lot of sense, right, John? I mean, I think this is a consolidated, purposeful effort to replace American and the American ideal with a socialist, globalist ideal. There's no other way I can put it. But it makes me happy because it'll be fun to watch. And it's a feel-good Friday, so it makes me feel really good about that. There was one other thing that there's one other thing that made me feel real good. And here it is. If I can get it.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the
I won't play the whole thing. That's the Chicks from last night, formerly the Dixie Chicks, doing the Star Spangled Banner. They did that in
love them.
2020. I love their singing.
Well, I don't know. Their politics, when they said F. George W. back in the day, sure rang pretty true with a lot of people.
But you know what? They sing one wail of a national anthem, and I got to give them credit for that. They
We'll
did
give
a
them
Is
great
that your
credit for
term
that.
of the day?
Pardon?
Is that your term of the day?
What?
Whale. One whale of a speech, one whale of a national anthem.
He's just wailing this morning, you know.
Jonah was swallowed by the whale? I don't know. Well, maybe it's a whale theme. We're going to have a soybean theme a little bit later. We're going to talk about what's going on with soybeans at 7:10. I want to learn more about soybeans.
You're in
Best
the right
soybeans
state.
in the world grown in Missouri. Just ask
yes.
the Asian countries.
And I
Years of being torn apart by its bitter divides. She said the country could take the road of chaos and calamity under a new term on Donald Trump. And the final night of the convention had a cute tutorial on how to pronounce Kamala's name, featuring her great nieces. You might have seen actress Kerry Washington introduce the little girls and say, "There have been some who struggle with the proper pronunciation of our future president's name." So little Amara and Leela came out and said, "First you say comma, like the comma in a sentence. Then you say la, like la 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 la." And they practiced pointing over to everybody over here doing the call and response. Comma, pointed the stage right and said la. And now you know the rest of that political story.
Well,
So now we know how to pronounce Kamala's name.
Oh, John.
well, it was a convention, as is most things Democrat progressive, for low information voters. There was
you go.
very little policy matter, insulting to people.
I thought it was appropriate. They had a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old kind of leading the crowd.
Yep. But hey, it sells in large number of precincts, right?
Oh, it was so cute.
Hope and change, hope and change, hope and
Okay.
change. Joy, I'm the joy president.
La.
Remember that movie Joy Luck? Wasn't there something, a Joy Luck movie, something? She's lucky she's there, and now she's just full of joy, and she's going to be Well, I mean, these are shady fly-by-night companies, and it probably takes a while for the legitimate, candy company to get a hold of them and first they give them a cease and desist letter, and then there's back and forth. But the governor's press release says approximately 11% of 12th graders, of seniors, roughly one of every. I don't know why he has to say roughly one of every 10. Governor, we know what 11% is, but that's okay. I guess he's speaking to low information voters there. Across the United States, reported past use of Delta 8. That's just one of the many things out there that are unregulated.
Well, and I remember even when I was, maybe a freshman or sophomore in high school, I think Delta 8 had kind of just hit the market maybe around then. And, sitting through several lectures at school from different professionals saying, no, it's not illegal, but you don't want to mess with this stuff because it's not regulated. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And especially now that fentanyl has become such a crisis, I don't know. I wouldn't want to roll the dice on something that's that unregulated.
What possesses kids to do that kind of stuff?
Because they're not supposed to.
Pretty much.
So they don't.
They want to be cool and edgy.
So they don't respect what their parents have taught them and their elders. They don't respect that.
I think it's not so much that. I think it's also peer pressure.
Sure.
You're not exactly an Einstein when you're 16, 17 years old.
Sneaking a beer, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Same kind of mindset.
In a hurry to grow up.
You mentioned. So anyway, what's going on here? I don't want to take too much of a diversion here, but that's a whole nother discussion about why do kids do what they do? Because they're kids, right? The governor apparently is saying that I guess Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft is not granting emergency rules. So I guess, does he have authority over implementing an executive order by issuing verbiage? Is that what we're getting down to? I'm not sure where the hang up is here.
Yeah, that was my question as well, because his spokesman said that, they're going to look into the legal ramifications of this. And I'm going, wow, it doesn't sound like something that would end up on the Secretary of State's desk.
Yeah.
You think more the AG's office or a Department of Health or somebody.
Looking at the letter that Governor Parson wrote to Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, just reading the first line here, he says, Secretary Ashcroft, I am extremely disappointed to learn that you denied the emergency rulemaking submitted by the Division of Alcohol and Tobacco Control within the Department of Public Safety to prevent access to unregulated psychoactive cannabis products at liquor licensed facilities. So right out of the gate, I am extremely disappointed.
You know what, though? Maybe, just maybe, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here. It's always fun to do that on a Feel Good Friday.
Yeah.
If it's an unregulated substance, does the governor really have any more constitutional authority over that than he does to say, I don't like what they're saying about me on the radio, so I'm putting out an executive order because I think it's harmful. They're saying, like, if Randy comes on the air and says that, I know something that he doesn't agree with from a public health standpoint. If I would have said in the 2020 pandemic, no, forget it, Governor, you forget it. No masks, no lockdowns, no nothing, because he did selectively endorse some of that stuff. Would he be able to just make an executive order and say, I'm going to regulate Randy's speech because I don't like? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Where was the legislature on this matter?
Yeah, there you go. There's the real question. Why didn't they pass the law to outlaw this stuff?
And so Jay may be doing this on principle. Let's give Jay a little break here.
Well, and I'm just going off of the governor's letter that I have in front of me, but he goes on to say, as best as I can tell, you denied this emergency rulemaking because you believe hurt feelings are more important than protecting children.
Well, now,
what a line.
Now, I like Governor Parson, but in all fairness, this is an unregulated substance. So who is the governor to unilaterally? I'm making the constitutional liberty argument
I'm
here.
with you.
Who is the government to govern? If we give the governor power to just by fiat say, I don't like this, I don't like that, you're not going to do that. I think this is dangerous for you. Well, then why? I mean, then we have a rule by king. Maybe that's what this is about. I think we need to get Jay Ashcroft on.
The governor's also saying that since the emergency rulemaking that the executive order tried to establish has been denied, I guess, by the Secretary of State's office, it delays the implementation of it by at least 6 months because the ATC has to submit it a different way as a proposal instead of an emergency rulemaking. And so looking at least 6 months before anything can go into effect.
Gosh, I wonder if Jesus would like to weigh in on this, or is it too hot to handle? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's something he doesn't want to get into, but we need. I'd really like someone who understands state constitution and government and jurisdiction and authority to weigh in on this. 573-874-9390. But just philosophically, you know me, guys, I am very suspicious of a heavy-handed government, even if it's the right thing to do. Because sometimes their definition of right thing to do may be something that's absolutely treading on your freedoms and liberties.
I think for me, though, the underlying thing, taking this executive order and the Delta 8 out of it, what's going on between the governor's office and the Secretary of State's office? Because we don't typically see this side of Governor Parson.
No.
And I mean, he is,
He seems to be pretty worked up over this.
And, the argument can be made. A lot of times outgoing politicians in their last couple months, they act differently than they did earlier in their term. Because, you're on your way out, right? But I don't know. This, to me, feels very strongly worded. And not something that have we seen this before from him at all? Is this the first time?
You mean, has he got his dander up like this?
Yeah, he took, when he was in the Missouri Senate, he was sure, he was one of the guys in the trenches taking sides there. But this, I mean, his whole thing about, he was a Mike Keogh guy. He was a guy who, put Mike Keogh in as lieutenant governor immediately after the Greitens stepped down and all. But you would maybe expect this more of this line of commentary directed at Jay Ashcroft if Jay had won the GOP nomination as opposed to losing.
Yeah. He says this is a personal matter for thousands of parents and grandparents in his letter to Jay Ashcroft. And denying the rulemaking is your attempt at retribution for my endorsement of another candidate. Of course, Kehoe. Safety of kids is not a political issue. I am disgusted that you are making it one. That's probably that's the strongest language I recall the governor using about any matter.
Is there any age limit on buying Delta 8 stuff in the quick shop or not? Or can a kid walk in and buy the Delta 8 gummy bears?
I don't know.
I would imagine you'd at least have to be 18, right?
Well, who knows?
And you know what? As long as we're having fun sort of raising questions about our leaders, a lot of filibustering, a lot of grandstanding went on. That Freedom Caucus, maybe they want people to be free to buy this stuff, but maybe they should have thought about doing this.
Oh, during last session?
Maybe establishment people should have thought about this. Maybe those Democrats who feel so strongly about protecting our children and they're always the ones that are always so emotional about things. Where were you, Democrats? How come you didn't float this and get on top of this? You too busy figuring out how to name some bridge by your name because you got to pass through? I mean, really, this is an important issue.
Or where were the lobbyists for public safety? Did they think about taking something like this, find a lawmaker to carry a bill?
The doctors, the nurses, the nurse practitioners, the pharmacists, the anesthetists, all of them, everyone looking out for turf battle. These are the kind of issues that there should be no doubt, there should be absolute consensus about this. This should be life in prison or the death penalty for anyone that distributes this kind of stuff to kids. I mean, that's the rule. Come on, General Assembly, November, GOP caucus, I'm going to challenge you. Do something about this. Decide what are really important issues about, Missouri's health.
I think the convenience store lobby might have a question or two about that kind of a penalty on it, but I could see this being a real battle to be played out on the floor of the Capitol.
No, I shouldn't have said who distributes these. I'd actually be more concerned about the manufacturers because the distributors could be duped. So when I said distributors, what I meant was manufacturers. At a minimum, they know what they're doing. They're misrepresenting it in a fraudulent way. And like you said, John, there's that caveat, and that's that corollary crime, if you will, of a copyright infringement. I mean, they've got enough things to at least bring these people into court, close down their plants, and start a prosecution. Of course, look, the reason I say things that are so hyperbolic about punishment is because in our society, by the time, if you argue for the death penalty, you might get a couple days in jail by the time our system has their way with people anymore. There's no swift, certain, and severe punishment for severe, fatal crimes like this. So you start arguing very tough stuff, and then you might get some moderate punishment for people who manufacture this. So yeah, I mean, the distributors of this, I mean, sure, if you're anyone who has this in your store and I know about it, I'm probably going to put your name on the air. This is unbelievable. I have heard of, I have seen, I have been around doctors that have treated this kind of stuff in the emergency room, and it is tragic. And it has no business on the shelves.
Not to tell tales on our coworkers from down the hall, but I remember, it's probably been a couple years, one of our coworkers ended up with one of those Delta 8 gummies.
Really?
And had a bad experience and didn't really realize what it was.
Oh, my gosh.
And was not somebody who indulged in that lifestyle anyway.
Wow.
And thought they were going to end up in the emergency room, and that was a grown individual.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but man, when I start binging on gummies, watch out. I'll eat the whole bag of Swedish fish, or whatever those things are. I know those things are addictive. Gummies can be addictive. Something about that, the mouthfeel of it, the chew. All right. Look, it's interesting. I think we'll reach out to Jay Ashcroft's people, see if he'd like to talk about what his rationale is, and if the governor has tried to read his heart instead of reading his brain. I don't know. I just don't know. We'll see. not all, but in some families, when people are getting ready to go to the show or the ball game or whatever, and people are running around in their underwear and stuff, they're just very open, So I'd like to think that's the way the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family are. We're very transparent. If we goof, we goof. If we're right, we're right. If we're goofing, we call one another out. We laugh about it.
We
that's
put
just
the
fun.
fun in dysfunctional,
That's right.
People
It's
love
fun.
to see the behind the scenes. Of
So I
what's
was like,
going on.
sometimes I want to talk about something in the next segment, and then I get involved with either trying to contact someone, like in this case, I'm trying to get in touch with Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft's people to see if we can get him on. Hannah, you're reaching out to the governor's people to see if he'll talk about it.
We want to try to get both sides
Right,
of this story.
It's fun for us to speculate. I mean, it's sort of what we do, right? We yap about things, but
The opinion part of that news analysis
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay, and so do you. And that's why we like you to text us at 874-9390, and that's fun. Or call. And then I thought, darn, Hannah, I got sidetracked here. Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay, so Judy Woodruff. Judy Woodruff has been with PBS NewsHour for how long, John? I mean, 2 centuries? She's been there a long time.
Oh, yeah, since before Marconi invented radio.
Well, so I think it was on Monday evening, she made comments on the coverage of the DNC, alluding to the fact that, or what she thought was reporting, that Donald Trump had boogered the pending ceasefire deal to get the hostages home, and had called Netanyahu and said, hey, booger the deal, stop it because I need this for my election, basically. Okay. What she said was, quote, "The reporting is that former President Trump is on the phone with the Prime Minister of Israel, urging him not to cut a deal right now because it's believed that would help the Harris campaign." Okay. She then, on Wednesday, issued an apology. And she said, as I said, this was not based on my original reporting. I was referring to reports I had read in Axios and Reuters. The Hill is reporting, Axios reported that Trump and Netanyahu spoke about a hostage and ceasefire deal, but Netanyahu later denied the conversation. Reuters reported similar information. And here's what The Hill says. The stories in Axios and Reuters to which Judy Woodruff tried to turf her reporting, her misinformation, that Trump had purposely tried to thwart the deal so that Harris wouldn't have an advantage going into the election. The Hill says the stories on Reuters and Axios did not report that Trump urged Netanyahu to not take a deal. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if Donald Trump makes it over the finish line, it will be a divine act of providence. He is fighting a media Purchase this for me because I don't purchase clothes generally. Okay. I wear my things from the 80s and 90s.
Be nice, Hannah.
Why would I buy new clothes when I have old clothes that are perfectly fine?
I see now why your wife and daughters buy you clothes. Okay.
Well, let's see if Casey Wasser from the Missouri Soybeans Association is with us. He's the COO and the Senior Policy Director there. And their website is mosoy.org. How you doing, Casey? Thanks for being with us.
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. We appreciate the opportunity.
And perhaps most importantly, he is a California Pinto. So I couldn't let us go on without mentioning that.
Well, a lot of great things happen. A lot of great people come from California, and
the big city in Missouri.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I
appreciate that.
You guys do California. I mean, you're trying to regain the fame that California once had as a name. It's been denigrated for good reason when you talk about the state, but the city of California, yeah, great things happening. All right, so we wanted to talk about a couple of issues that are controversial and affect, not only all Missourians in one aspect, but specifically farmers, and I guess more specifically soybean farmers. And we will be asking you a little bit later about if the organization is going to make any statement or any endorsement regarding political candidates this year, both state and at the federal election. So little warning there, Casey, a little bit later.
No problem.
So tell us about the Missouri soybean situation, how things are looking. What do you guys do? I read a great crop report that we are leading in corn progress, I think. Are we leading the states in soybean, too, in terms of the quality of the crop this year? I think things are looking good or not?
The production's looking really good. We had favorable weather conditions to get an early corn crop planted. So, corn gets planted earlier than soybeans. So the corn producers got it in very early. Soybeans look good too. Timely July rains for the corn crop is looking really, really good. I know down in the Boot Heel, guys are already cutting corn. Soybeans, we got a few early August rains, which is always important to filling out a soybean pod. And so we could use a few more, but our production is going to be really good. Unfortunately, we've seen prices take a major hit. I think they're down 50-60% as opposed to where they were in early 2023, but the production will be good, prices not so good.
Talk to us about the popularity of Missouri's bean crop, especially in Asia. I know it's a big deal for Missouri farmers, isn't it?
It's a huge deal. Missouri soybean, when you look at our production, we're actually the number one commodity crop in the state with nearly 6 million bushels or 6 million acres of production. And 1 out of every 3 row of our production actually goes to the Asian countries. Overall, the crop entirety, about 60% of that is exported. And it is something we are focused on, especially when you look back to the Trump administration and there were tariffs with China, and that obviously took a huge hit in the markets here in the U.S. So we've been trying to diversify some of that. But they were a very fast-growing country, and they use a lot of our soybean production.
Now, this morning we've been talking a little bit about some of the things that didn't make it out of the last legislative session that we think probably should have. We have a little spat going on between the governor and the Secretary of State right now over one of those issues. But one thing that I know kind of went under the radar for a lot of folks who maybe aren't farmers or who aren't close to a farmer is this big water export legislation. Was it 2 different bills that were filed last session that kind of nothing ended up happening with?
There are 2 specific pieces of legislation, and the first one deals with water exports. And I think, you talked about, a lot of people may not think about this, but Missouri is home to nearly 500 trillion, and that's not Trump's billion with a B, that is trillion with a T, 500 trillion gallons of what they call potable groundwater. And we are a riparian rights state, which means you don't have to have a permit to use the water that either runs adjacent to, underneath your property. You have a given right to use that water. And about 80% of our municipal drinking water comes from that groundwater. In Missouri, we have absolutely no authority to regulate or even understand the water that could be leaving this state. So the my board is the Soybean Association. We simply exist to protect the interest of our members and our producers, which we have over 34,000 in the state. One of the things that they asked us to look at is, what do we need to do to protect this very valuable resource we have, which is the water, the abundance of water we have in the state. We've seen what's going on in the West with these water wars. There's plenty of case law out there that kind of tells state how they can and can't regulate interstate commerce with regard to water. So we've read up on that. And Senator Jason Bean and maybe Senator-elect come this November, current Representative Jamie Berger, both filed bills that would give some authority to DNR to create a permitting process that would say, look, if you're going to come into this state and try to take our water, whether you're going to take it out to the west or you are simply moving it across lines, maybe as a water utility, we need to have an understanding of how much water is leaving and why it's leaving and where it's going. And so those bills were targeted at giving DNR a permitting authority. And then if DNR said, yeah, there's a beneficial use for that, let's say over in Kansas, they need it for drinking water, then they grant a permit. That permit then would flow to a commission, which we felt was very important, the Clean Water Commission or the Soil and Water Commission. That gives the public an opportunity to come in and understand, okay, why is this either state or entity trying to take our water? That gives them a voice. It gives us an opportunity to voice any concerns that we may have. And ultimately, if everything looks fine there and it's not going to have any impact on our beneficial uses in this state, then they could grant a permit. And those permit lives are different in each bill. But from a very high-level perspective, we feel it is extremely important that we get a grasp on how much water is leaving this state. And if someone wants to move massive amounts of water, what does that look like? So I think these bills are extremely important. And I'll tell you, Director Drew Bunton at DNR, I don't think this state could have a better advocate for its water resources than Drew. He's been extremely helpful to my board on educating us about how important this specific piece of legislation is.
Now, at risk of having to hand over my bachelor's degree back to the University of Missouri and my ag degree with this potentially stupid question, we've been hearing a lot over the last several years about how terrible the drought situation has been in the state. And so hearing you talk about the, trillions of gallons of water that Missouri has, how does that compute? How are we looking at shipping out our state's water when it kind of sounds like we need it, if that makes any sense at all, Casey?
It makes perfect sense. And honestly, that was one of the main conversations we had in the legislature was, if you're going to pass bills like this, we need to make sure that we give some flexibility to the DNR when we have these times of disastrous droughts. And, Missouri, you think about the cave systems and just the uniqueness of Missouri, the flatlanders down in the Boot Heel, and you've got the Ozarks, and you've got sort of your Iowa-style farming up on north of I-70. And we're just an extremely diverse state. And it's the same with our water resources. So in the late 90s, people were able to start figuring out they could tap into some of these aquifers to help irrigate, to help provide drinking water, even to help provide energy production, because a lot of our water use goes into energy production. That was our number one push, saying, look, we continue to deal with droughts year in and year out. And we as a state need to make sure that we have some sort of say that if we are in a drought and farmers are unable to irrigate, cities are having trouble being able to meet the demands of hopefully what is a growing population in this state if we get our policy right, we have got to get our hands around this. And so the bill was really close to passing. Like many things that you all have talked about on this show, it died in the Senate, right? And I've already talked with what is going to likely be pro tem Senator O'Loughlin about getting a group of senators together in November when they caucus and just focus on this issue. And let's not bring any politics into it, because there was plenty of that in the Missouri Senate. Let's talk about the policy here, because we are continuing to deal with droughts. We should not be letting exports go out of this state unchecked.
Casey, about out of time, but we haven't heard much on the in the news cycle about soybean-based biodiesel. What's the market for that look like currently?
Missouri is actually the largest soy-based biodiesel producer, and it was started by the soybean farmers in their checkoff back in the early 1990s with some researchers at the University of Missouri. The industry really got kicked off in about 2004 when the Bush administration was doing everything they could to make us energy independent. Obviously, there was some global conflicts going on at the time, largely dealing with oil too. So our state has about $50 million in tax revenue, 5,000 jobs, and over $2 billion in economic impact that is created by the biodiesel industry. Unfortunately, the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act changed a lot of federal policy, and those tax credits that might go into effect in 2022 are not good for the American farmer, and they're not good for American energy independence. So we were really glad to see U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt join a letter that we think is going to be extremely important as the IRS promulgates some of these rules. But we've seen a massive increase of used cooking oil from China and tallow from Brazil. And these new policies are actually favoring some of these foreign countries as they import feedstocks instead of using the products that we make right here in this state. When you crush a soybean, you get that oil, and that's what should be used, of course, to make energy independence in this country, not imports.
Casey Wasser, COO and Senior Policy Director with Missouri Soybeans at mosoy.org. Casey, look, I've been looking at the recipes made with soybeans and soybean ingredients on your website. I don't see one of our favorites that we have at least once a week, and that is my wife takes and makes like homemade sort of edamame. She just takes the soybeans, and I'm telling you, she puts some kind of I don't know what it is. It's sort of like a maple-ish, salty, sweet thing on them, and they're great. And then she roasts them, and I don't know, a little olive oil spray. I don't know how she does it. If she told me, she'd have to kill me. But she'd probably send the recipe to you. But we sat on the porch the other night, a beautiful night, and you know what? They're a great snack. You get the soybean mouthfeel of the nice soft soybean. You get the nutrition, but also you get a little bit of that nice flavor as you're sort of, slithering with your mouth, the bean out of the pod there. And it's a low-calorie, high-nutrition snack. So I would refer everyone to the website. I'm looking at this miso caramel coconut cheesecake. A lot of good recipes here. So I think folks ought to really become very familiar with soybeans by eating some Missouri soybeans. How's that sound?
I think that's a fantastic idea. Usually every morning I get my soybeans through the bacon that I eat because the meal feeds the pork. But I am all for that. I love that idea.
I think she would rather have you eating edamame, being the holistic nutritionist she is, rather than the bacon. But that's a story for another day, Casey. We're just looking out for you. That's all.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for being with us, and we'll keep following these initiatives and check in as the caucus in November goes on, see if that rises to some priority level, and following that with the session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me on. Very much appreciate it.
All right, Casey Wasser, mosoy.org. What's hot with Hannah coming up?
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
A few weeks ago, my economics professor claimed that universal basic income is the key to getting people off the welfare system in America. I was wondering if you can explain what universal basic income is and if it's a form of socialism or communism.
I have to say that if that's what the professor said, I am dumbstruck. I want you to all hear the words if I got it right. He's quoting his professor. Universal basic income is a great way to get people off welfare. Okay, are you all aware of why that's not coherent? Why isn't universal basic income welfare? That was priceless. It's like saying there is a way to get people off heroin, and that is with another drug. There you go. Meth. The way to get people off heroin is with meth. It's genius. Bloody genius. All right, why is that not answer the question? That's what it is. Universal basic income is giving everybody a check every month, and that's welfare. That's the definition of welfare. It's so ironic. It goes back to my earlier thing, crutch. It's okay to have an economic crutch, but not a religious crutch. And the irony is the people who have the religious crutch are the most opposed to economic.
It's all right. You know, I've been saving this, and I think, Randy, you will get a kick out of this.
Yeah.
It is this Disney lawsuit. Have you seen what they're up to with this
I know.
death?
It's very troubling to me. I'm conflicted on this one. Go ahead.
So, a doctor went to Disneyland, and this doctor has severe allergies to peanuts and dairy. And on her trip to Disney, she actually handpicked some restaurants that were known for being allergen friendly. She did the thing when she ordered her food. She really stressed to the waitress, you know, please, please, please tell the kitchen I have these very terrible allergies. Okay. She eats her food and hours later ends up in the hospital and ends up ultimately dying. Because of the meal that she'd eaten at, it was actually Disney World,
Nuts
not Land.
and dairy, yeah.
Yeah. So nuts and dairy, she ended up passing away because of this severe allergy that she has. So obviously, what she was served at the restaurant was not allergen friendly as she had requested and as the restaurant had assured her it would be.
Well, apparently, from the story you sent, the restaurant touted how careful they were. And when
That's
some
like
of the
their thing.
items came to the table without the little allergen-free flags, they even questioned the waiter who said, no, it's all good. Don't worry about it. So, I mean, wow.
Yeah, so the husband of the deceased doctor tried to file a lawsuit against Disney World, and he was only asking for $50,000. And in terms of a wrongful death lawsuit, that's not a lot.
I was amazed, yeah, how low.
Disney is fighting it. They are
Why?
choosing to die on this hill. The husband had signed up for a Disney Plus streaming account some time earlier. And I guess somewhere in the terms and conditions that no one reads, it says something about Disney being protected from certain lawsuits. And they're trying to use that as an excuse to not grant the lawsuit.
They want it to go to arbitration because of one of the fine prints you scroll through and check the box because you want to watch Tinkerbell.
Over
Back
50K.
with more in a bit. Stay tuned.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where I come
tank or worry about a grocery bill.
Well, that was Elizabeth Warren last night on the closing night of the Democrat National Convention. Interesting that she alleges that Donald Trump doesn't know how to lower prices. I don't know. John, you're the news guy. I recall that prices were lower under Trump than Biden, but maybe I'm wrong. Once in a while I get it wrong,
I was thinking interest rates were a lot lower,
Yeah,
too,
interest
about
rates.
that same time.
How about insurance rates? A friend of mine here works in the studio, said that insurance got an increase of $500 a year for his, home insurance. I think so. No recent claims.
We heard the story on Fox News just earlier this week that insurance rates nationwide going up as much as 25%, and Missouri at one of the states right at the tip top.
I don't understand why that is. I mean, has Missouri had more claims, or are we sharing in the claims of the hurricanes and some other things? I don't know. I don't get it. But there's claims made, and then there's truth, and there's falsehoods, and so forth. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, the What's Hot with Hannah segment was a very interesting one, because the more I think about this, Hannah, you got this doctor who has severe food allergies, goes down to an establishment in a Disney, down in Disney World or Disneyland, I forget which.
Disney World, yeah.
Okay, but it's on the Disney properties, right? Yep. They choose a restaurant that is supposed to be very, very conscientious about their food allergy, protections.
It's sort of one of their whole claims to fame, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, that's their big deal. And she ends up asking the waiter, why aren't 2 or 3 of the things flagged as being allergen-free like other things were? Well, no, we just forgot the flag. Don't worry. Trust me, it's good. She eats it. Later on, she collapses and dies.
And that's after they administered her an EpiPen on site.
So, and then Disney wants this to go to arbitration rather than a lawsuit, because they claim that when you sign up for Disney Plus, when they signed up for Disney Plus, they checked the box. It said, I agree with the terms. And somewhere in the terms, it says that any affiliate of the Disney World, Disney Corporation, Big Disney, basically, if you make a claim against them or any one of their affiliates, you will be subjected to arbitration, not a trial. I think it's interesting. How many of those embedded little gotchas are in the various things? How many of those do you sign every day or every week, right? When you sign up for an app or you sign up
reads the fine print.
Yeah. Try to read the fine print. It's like reading War and Peace,
Well, and, when folks say, oh, our electronic devices are listening to us, or, your smart speakers or whatever it may be. Yeah, they are. And it tells you that in the terms and conditions. And I'm not blaming anyone, because I certainly don't read them. But you see it pop up on your screen, you go, oh, you scroll to the bottom, you click accept, you move on, right? But you are agreeing to all sorts of things.
So what's your opinion on that? Should that be regulated? I think in this case, I would have to land on the side of Disney. I mean, you signed something.
Think?
You signed something.
I just wonder what plaintiff's attorney might say about it. Let's challenge it.
But in terms of...
Attorneys love to challenge things, because no matter how and this is not a slam on attorneys, but at the end, they may or may not win but the case, but they always win because they bill.
Well, even though I think it is sneaky to rely on terms and conditions that someone might have signed or whatever, that is the business sort of covering their rear, right? I get that. Mm-hmm. However, when you're looking at the Disney Plus streaming platform for movies versus a Disney World theme park, it doesn't feel like the same thing to me.
No, but it doesn't matter. It's a contract. You've signed a contract.
For a streaming platform, though, not a vacation.
But it doesn't matter if it says...
You signed it with Disney.
With Disney. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Obviously, I'm very often wrong about many things, including the law.
And the bigger thing is, the husband only wanted $50,000 in this wrongful death lawsuit. Mm-hmm. To Disney, that's like they dropped a nickel on the ground and they don't stop to pick it up, right?
I think it's
nothing.
I think it's probably a matter of principle. And if they let this one go through, then, and if they pay this, then what happens? From their perspective, that's a moral hazard. Well, it's a hazard. It's a precedent. You're right. Because then if John has an allergy to shrimp and he goes down to a Disney restaurant and they cook the andouille sausage in the same bowl that they did the Creole in, and he, whatever, watch out, or gumbo, I mean, then and John has a problem. John might want to sue for $500,000. So I get it from Disney's perspective. Look, generally, America, I don't know, if you look at the experience of America, we tend to only do the right thing when things are really going south. Legislation is very reactive.
True, isn't it?
Right? We only turn the ship around right before it's going to hit the iceberg, generally. We're very reactive that way. And, I mean, to me, the best thing that could happen was for people to all cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions. Don't go to Disney next year. Go to Branson, go to Six Flags, go to whatever Worlds of Fun, go to somewhere else and say, okay, Disney, you want to play hardball? We'll play hardball with you. Remember Bud Light? Remember that, Disney? Okay. I just think that we've got to honor contracts, whether they make sense or not. Is it the government's job to protect us from our own stupidity, our own laziness, our own apathy? I don't know. 573-874-9390. Let me know.
Anybody who's been to Disney knows how controlled their environments are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything down from the players and the people you meet in some of the venues, they're all role-playing down there, and Disney has a tight control on all aspects of it. So you would imagine the controls they put on signing up for their services are right up there at that same level.
They even paint some of the buildings that they want to blend into the background a very specific shade of paint that is scientifically proven to allow things to blend into the background so you don't really see them, or your brain doesn't pay attention to them, just to help elevate that Disney experience, all the way down to the pest control that they use on the grounds.
Oh, just the way they hide plumbing fixtures and all that, that kind of stuff. Even where they hook the hoses up to water the grass, it's sight unseen by the folks who come to the Magic Kingdom.
It's a beautiful show they put on. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just a beautiful experience, but
till you get a plate full of shrimp you're allergic to.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's fun to talk about these things and watch it. But did you know that one of the speakers last night, she's a teacher union president, Becky Pringle. We've talked about her before. Did you know she made an advertisement for the Republicans and for Trump, Vance, and I don't know if it's in the Republican platform. Did you know that, John? I did a little research. I listened to the speeches.
I did not know that.
Some of the minor speeches. Hannah, I do the research so you don't have to,
I appreciate that.
And listen, this is something Becky Pringle made an ad for the Republicans, and she didn't know it.
They will shut down the Department of Education. They will shut down the Department of Education.
And she was talking about the Republicans. Wow, she just made an ad. That's an unconstitutional department. I don't think that department should exist. Do you?
There's been a lot of talk about them going after it with several administrations over the years.
Yeah, that was a Reagan mistake. He sort of let that cat out of the bag. I mean, that was just getting its sea legs at that time. And there's nothing wrong with a state department of education, a local department of, whatever, your school board. That's great. That's fine. I'm not for anarchy and no authority over certain things. But
the Freedom Caucus on the floor of the Missouri Senate called for the elimination of the Missouri Department of Education.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother dispute there, right? There's a new, isn't there a new director coming up? We need to get her on the air, right? Esslinger, is that her name? Yeah. We need to get her on the air and talk to her and ask her about how she feels about education, about some of the critiques of education that we've talked about. But I thought that was cute because here it was, she's like crowing about how bad that would be. Well, many people in America are tired. I can tell you, I sat on a school board, and I mean, a lot of the top-down stuff that came because it came with federal money. It's like health care. When it comes with federal money, there are huge strings, sometimes shackles applied that you can't say anything about. You just
what was the old joke? That I sat on a school board till I got splinters in my butt, right?
That's right. And, you get this package of I don't know how the school board does it here, but you get this package of policies, and you have to every year you go through, and then there's new policies, and you have to periodically review old policies. You pretty much rubber stamp for the most part, with some local exceptions and modifications. What are you going to do? You're going to tell the State Department of Education you're not going to pass one of their policies? You know what I mean? It becomes sort of a rubber stamp type of thing in many jurisdictions.
The department that is hold harmless and gets their funding every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that was a nice little. Yeah, John. Okay, good. I felt that. I felt a little twinge there in my side, John.
Careful. Family show.
All right. What's coming up on your segment, John?
Well, remember bad air day, creepy on a plane? How about something a whole lot scarier?
Ooh, all right.
aggressively. The 26-year-old says she saw the man threaten an older lady, sticking his middle finger in her face. She said, I tried to not make eye contact, just kept walking, but he kept blocking the trail, so I couldn't get around him. Then he started bouncing on his feet as though he was a boxer before he got in her face, and she said, can you please stop? Then he jumped at her with an intimidating movement. She said she began to dial 911 and drew the attention of a group nearby and says, if the people weren't around, I couldn't imagine what happened. It was only when she attempted to take a video that the guy fled. And the kicker on the story is, thanks to a number of years ago, it is illegal to carry a handgun or any weapon in Australia, whether concealed or not. And they say in their law this is because public safety is a priority. Carrying a gun could endanger others or incite fear. Now you know the rest of that not so darn funny story.
No. Well, makes me think of that assault over on the MKT trail.
Yeah, no
was that last year?
A couple years ago.
Or a couple years ago, yeah, when that woman, was she on a bike, I think? Yes. And a guy, he'd had some other dust-ups with pedestrians and bicyclists there. But I think some others came to her rescue and put their bike between them and him or something. I don't know, but it was...
Whole lot scarier than some guy saying he likes your hair and here's $100 for the privilege.
Yeah. Well, that yesterday we ran out of time before I could ask the question. And Hannah, I'm going to direct this at you.
Oh, no.
Well, no, I mean, I used to be in the habit of, because I'm sort of, I don't know, maybe I don't know. I try to do what I thought the culture wanted us to do as a man.
Okay.
So women want to be treated equal, right?
Of course.
Why is it inappropriate, or has it changed? Because for a while I was trying to lead and be exemplary of treating women equally and commenting on like, wow, nice threads. That's a beautiful dress. That's a nice outfit. But then I started hearing that you're not supposed to do that because that's like sexual harassment. So what's the current status? Because I will compliment if I see a guy that has a nice tie or a suit, especially when things were maybe a little less casual at work. I mean, it's changed now, but I mean, Occasionally if someone's got a really nice pair of shoes or something, because I wear old shoes, I'm like, man, nice shoes.
You just complimented one of our coworkers' white sneakers.
Yeah, very nice. Boy, man, they like blinded me. They
some
were so...
Jordans.
So is it inappropriate or not to just make a comment about a woman's clothing or her hair? I noticed your hair the other morning. I said, hey, something's different. Your hair's different. It looks good.
Oh, when I straightened it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and I think I said looks good. Is that a come on? Is that inappropriate? Is it because when Hanson gets his haircut, I go, I got your ears lowered, huh? Looks good.
I'm certainly not speaking for all women.
Why not?
My opinion, I think it's all about two things: delivery and your relationship to the person who's saying it.
You gotta watch it.
So if a stranger randomly gave me a compliment like that, I think I would be a little, maybe not even creeped out, but like I'd feel kind of awkward. You know what I mean? But like when you said that, I mean, we know each other well enough. I just said thanks. Like I didn't think twice of it. So I think it kind of just is a situational thing. And I know that's not what you wanted me to say, but...
No, I didn't want you to say anything. It's just really weird. It's a strange time we're in because...
Well, I think too... Sorry.
Women want to be treated equally, but if you, for instance, in the political realm, if you hammer on a woman's policies or this, you're being... I mean, it does get traction. The media will report you as being sexist. Oh, you're being rough on her. And frankly,
I see it with race too.
And because I'm what did Steph call me the other day? A trad man? I'll take that. I'll own it. I'm a trad man. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm, in fact, I think I have some sound about that. I would like to think that it honors a woman to want to protect her or to put her in a secure place because women are physically generally weaker than men. I think it honors a person, whether they're a woman or a man, to open the door for them. But there are some women I've been verbally slapped down when I've opened the door for a woman. So It's because women want to be treated like equals. Well, you know how men treat one another? They joke about the size of their parts, and but yet if you do that with a woman, oh my God, I'm taking you to HR. That is, to me, that is fundamentally hypocritical.
I think
fundamentally hypocritical.
I think too that as women we've had to build these walls up maybe a little too high because of things like the assault you just referenced earlier in the segment. There's this whole, the bear or the man thing, which we could maybe get into later. I don't know. I think women fear men, and so it's easy to overanalyze everything they do.
Women
if that makes
fear
sense.
men. Wow. Well, you know what? Ask the women that are being protected at True North about how they feel about men, and I understand how you could fear men because many of them are there because they've been abused. I
And
get
it's
that.
not all, obviously.
Not all, but
yeah.
you see more attacks of men on women than vice versa. We'll talk with the True North folks right after this. from Kamala. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, you got to feel just good about watching this circus that is our political campaign season, right?
I think we have
It's
different
fun.
definitions of the word fun.
Now, you and I, that's a behind-the-scenes thing people should know. To me, this is just fun. This is like a spectator sport. To me, this is like going to a football game, basketball game, and watching the two sides fight it out. Yeah, I'd like one side to win, but at the end of the day, you know, whatever. You can't control what you can't control. But, I mean, Kamala Harris last night, John, did you see the speech?
I went back and saw
Okay.
the excerpts, which was about all I could stomach.
She said that Donald Trump's Project 2025, blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump has distanced himself from 2025 for how many weeks now? He's made it explicitly clear. She just got up there and bold-faced lied. He has not, but they make Project 2025 sound like Area 56, you know, like what? There's some kind of denizens of your freedom there. It's actually a very, very nice 900-page document. I've read some of it. It's a good
So
document.
that's where they put the aliens.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And then you got this one. This is another whopper, a whale of a lie. She
I
told.
refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law.
Yeah, so that bipartisan border deal, if you remember the details, allowed 5,000 crossings a day. 5,000 a day until the president had the option of shutting things down. I wouldn't call that a tight border nor security, would you, John?
She's the border czar. Oh, wait.
Oh, no, she's not. No, John. That's just a GOP talking point. Well, I think we do think a lot about security, and we think a lot about, in a local way, how can we be secure in our homes? How can women be secure in troubled relationships, and occasionally men? And so coming up Tuesday is a big event. I've been to a couple of them. I'll be here with you, so I won't be able to go to the one on Tuesday. But I wanted to talk with Wendy Wiederhold, who's the vice president of the board there at True North of Columbia. And you know our friend Dr. Ashley Emmel as well, and we touch base with her now and then. Wendy joins us now to talk about this Men as Allies event next Tuesday. Wendy, thanks for being with us.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. Let's talk about the event. I remember last year, it was almost like standing room only because these events are so popular. Men in the community stand up and support your organization and the great things you do because you serve largely women, right? But let's talk about what the event is and what it supports.
Yeah, you're right. We were pretty much at full capacity last year. In fact, we changed our venue this year to be able to host more men as allies for True North. And what Men as Allies really is involving men in preventing violence and advocating for victims. And as you mentioned, you know, domestic and sexual violence are really largely crimes perpetrated by men, but not all men, of course, are abusing and make men as allies. And, you know, I think and look around in our community, how much influence a man can have on their daughters, on their colleagues, on their sisters and their friends. And it really is just a meaningful morning, really learning more about the issue and how it surrounds us.
Well, and the stories that we hear, I've since we've been in Columbia, I've been to 2 events, and I mean, the stories you hear tug at your heart, sometimes rip it out. The emotions are really flowing there, and because you hear these stories, and it's just so compelling. Was it last year, Wendy, when Assistant Chief Jeremiah Hunter, I believe, was it last year, year before, talked about how of the active homicide investigations, what was it, like 9 of 10 started as these domestic disputes, right? I mean, it was some tremendous number. I mean, these things escalate and often end up with people not in your shelter, but in a casket. I mean, it's a real problem here in the Columbia area.
Yeah, domestic violence is one of the biggest risks for death for women. And as you mentioned earlier, it affects women and men. It really affects all genders. And, you know, in Missouri, we have an unfortunate statistic of being the 3rd highest state in the nation for domestic violence. And so there's a big opportunity really for addressing within our community. And this is really what this breakfast is all about.
The times we talked to you guys at True North and the Rape and Abuse Crisis Service folks in Jefferson City, you're so quick to point out that one of the biggest challenges in domestic violence is the sort of generational nature of it, where unfortunately there are those families out there who see it as accepted behavior.
Yeah, and that's a culture and an education that we absolutely can change. And at True North, we really have that vision that we can create that community free from intimate domestic and sexual violence, including stalking and sex trafficking. And we really have a focus on, like, how can we promote advocacy where we can really teach people about healthy relationships and how we can have healthy relationships thrive in our homes and throughout our community and create a safer community.
And I think there's just been a rising level of tolerance, sadly, for violence in our culture. I mean, you see it. I mean, people, sometimes it's verbal discourtesy and rudeness, people saying things about one another that they shouldn't say, or they, in a day gone by wouldn't have said, and then that escalates to yelling and screaming, and then the next thing you know, it's violence. And I just think you're right. I mean, we're in a tinder bed now of the potential. So, True North of Columbia is the only, as far as I know, the only comprehensive sort of big program for shelter and advocacy. You guys have a 24/7 hour hotline, right?
Absolutely, we do. Open 24/7. Our hotline we have available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our agency provides safe haven for approximately 800 victims, and that crisis hotline over 4,500 individuals on average. And the crazy thing, looking at, some of the things that we have focused ahead of us is just the increase in violence, as you mentioned. In 2023, our services tripled, the demand for those services. And we are really focused on how do we increase our capacity. And that's really what events like this will help us do, is being able to increase the capacity of services, not only to, help those survivors, but also the advocacy to prevent this in the future.
How big a role do you think the tough economy plays on the number of domestic violence calls that you guys get?
Oh, absolutely. Anxiety, stress, all of those things do play into increase in services, and we see those patterns year over year. Whenever there's any, the pandemic was a really good example of really where those pressures then can convert into sometimes anger, sometimes other types of outputs that end up in violence. Yeah, unfortunately.
It's tough. So there's this event Tuesday morning. Give us the what, when, where of it.
Yeah. So the Menace Allies Breakfast, it's Tuesday the 27th. It starts at 7 a.m. The program starts. It's really a pretty short, concise, but full of information, 1 hour. The doors open at 6:30, so we do serve breakfast. It will be held at the Crossing Church, which is on 3615 Southland Drive. They're off Grindstone here in Columbia. Again, we have a pretty awesome, dynamic group of speakers at this event. We've got Mike Alden, Kermit Summerall, Brian Grove, Katie Huff. So we've got our, former athletics director. We've got the pastor at the Crossing, and we have some amazing staff from True North to really kind of help educate with some of the services that we provide and why this is important.
And as I understand, I mean, you just come on down, right? I mean, do you need to register before? Is there a price for tickets, or what's the story? How do people
Thank you. That's an important clarification. Yeah, registration is needed, so you can contact S. Butler at truenorthofcolumbia.org, or you can call 573-777-8829 to register if you would like to attend. We, again, do have some capacity, and the seats are filling very quickly. We're pretty close to capacity, but we certainly encourage, if you would like to attend, really learn more about True North. please contact us at 777-8829. We would love to see you there.
That'd be great. And so for any of you who have not been to one of those events, I can tell you it is a moving experience, and it will move you to help with the True North of Columbia initiative. And there's a special tax credit kind of a deal, right, for donations. Is that right, Wendy? I don't know the specifics. You remember it?
That's correct. So, and back to, the breakfast itself, there's no cost to attend. It is a fundraiser, of course, and it's education and everything. And there is a tax credit available for the state of Missouri for your donations, and you get up to 50% tax credit. So they'll give more information about that program.
Yeah. And that's not just a deduction, that's a tax credit. That's right off the bottom line
of
what you owe.
Correct.
That's a big deal. Hey, well, Wendy, thank you very, very much for your leadership along with being with us today. And I know a lot of hard work goes into day-to-day operations as well as these events. So we thank you and Dr. Ashley and all the staff there. Thanks very, very much for being with us. And we hope you have a absolutely packed house on Tuesday morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. When we come back, time for the business report. Stephanie's out. We will carry forth and let you know maybe the all down. And today, futures are up, though. Why? Because Chairman Powell is going to give a speech in Jackson Hole, and no one knows whether he's going to preview a rate cut of 1/4 or 0.5% in September.
It's interesting to see that the Fed presidents, though, from across the country aren't all in lockstep, are they?
No, they are not. No, and I'm not sure. The markets have been talking. Well, the market watchers have been talking about this being a done deal. That things just because of some slowing in the economy news. Inflation down a little bit. The jobs report not as robust as Biden and Harris would like us to believe. The futures are up about 0.5% on the Dow, 1% in the NASDAQ. That's about 200 points at this point. Oil, it's been up and down. It's been down. Now it's up $74 a barrel. And I don't see much change at the pump, although maybe a little bit recently. I saw just the other day when I had to get some gas for the lawnmower. My lawnmower stopped in the middle of grass cutting. I was mowing.
Don't you hate that?
Oh, I know. I was enjoying the smell of freshly mown grass. I just said that for Brian Hansen's benefit. We have a mown versus mowed debate going on. So we'll have to see what Chairman Powell has to say. But you know what? I don't normally cover the agricultural markets, and it's not so much the market. But I read that as of August 18th, Hannah, Missouri's corn is the best in the country.
Well, duh.
According to the USDA's crop progress report, I mean it's progress. I don't mean like it tastes the best or what. 79% of the Show Me State's corn was rated good to excellent, and so we're ahead of Iowa. I mean,
blame it on all the rain.
Yeah, and just a year. Well, we had a couple years sort of drought conditions at this time, so I don't know how long the weather has to stay good, or if sort of it's now a done deal. It's going to be a good crop, or what's going to be needed to continue making a good crop. Hannah, do you know? John, do you know? I mean, we need a little more rain still, don't we? I mean,
knee high by the 4th of July, isn't that the old saw on the corn crop?
I'm gonna say we're pretty close to harvest, I would imagine.
I don't know. I thought they were talking. I skipped to one part of the article, and they were talking about tassels, and I thought it was about like dance costumes.
Oh,
I wasn't
boy.
sure.
Oh boy!
Throws a whole new meaning into the word detasseling, right?
But this is good news. This is good news. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask. That's the market report. But I didn't get a chance to ask Casey when he was on with us from the Soybean Association. If you didn't catch that, make sure you catch our podcast or the archive on Facebook. But he said soybean, while production's way up, prices are down. Now, to me, that's not a surprise, right? I mean, are the prices down because everyone is aware that there's a big crop coming in, and that's anticipating the production?
That's where the folks who bid on the ag futures all come in, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the front end of that whole deal.
It's complicated. And then you can store your corn or your grain or your beans right until the prices go up again. But then there's the cost of storage, and then there's a cash flow issue. So I don't know, this farming thing, you gotta be a businessman and a biologist, engineer, mechanic, psychologist.
IT guy.
IT now, yeah, right. As complicated as they are. Anyway, well, it's good to hear that the corn is looking good. That's good to hear. Okay, winners and losers when we come back.
For real this time.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think the people are fair enough.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? He's, it's similar to WWF as a child growing up, and they just played these sides where it was all scripted and manipulated by the people behind the curtain, dictating the outcomes of who's going to be champion.
Is the Democratic Party leaning more to the left? No, the Democratic Party is actually cultural Marxist party.
Is the Democratic Party leaning more to the left, in my opinion? I believe all politicians are basically taking money. They'll lean whatever.
Losers who really shone and who was pretty dull and tarnished this week. Let's talk about it. Hannah, who's on your list?
Why do I always have to go first? Jeez.
Last time.
You sat too close to the teacher.
I called on you last time and you didn't want to go first, so I figured you'd be raring to go now.
I made eye contact for too long. All right. I have a few winners of the week. Missouri Farmers Care. We've had them on the show with us before. But they posted on Facebook earlier this week that FFA and 4-H members teamed up with some of our elected officials and a couple other partners across the state at the state fair to, they packaged 711,000 meals while at the state fair. And I believe that was, in one day? I know every day the FFA members come out to the state fair for a day and they work on some food insecurity projects. So 711,000 for their drive to feed kids that Missouri Farmers Care was able to do.
Wow, yay, that's great.
Really good.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Also, we talk a lot about technical schools and how they're, a really good option for folks who maybe a four-year university isn't what they're looking for. State Tech in Lynn announced this week that they broke their enrollment record for students for the 8th year in a row. So they're my winner they're doing really great things at that school. I don't know if anyone's ever had the opportunity to go.
They do some great training
State Tech has been named in the past the top technical school in America.
Yeah, my brother graduated from there and my sister-in-law as well. So very familiar with their programs and some of the cool stuff that they are doing there. And then my last winner of the week, of course, one of Columbia's sweethearts, Sophie Cunningham. She recorded her first career double-double. Of course, she plays for the Mercury in the WNBA. They were playing the team called Sky. And, she got her first double-double.
What's a
of her career.
double-double?
John, help me out.
I'm not a big basketball fan. I don't know.
Boards and rebounds, points, and assists.
Oh, wow. So
it
that
is not
an
easy feat. It's
sort
a
of like
deal.
a hat trick in hockey. I mean, it's an unusual
good analogy.
Yeah. Good. All right, super. All right, that's good. Look, I only have one winner and one loser. My winners are the docs and nurses who took care of my daughter Shannon out in North Carolina for a very serious emergency condition postpartum. And she's doing well and will be going home today, we hope. Started a week after she delivered, sort of one of those strange things that pops up like a thunderstorm. And she's doing much better. But thanks for all your prayers and well wishes, those of you who weighed in privately and on the text. My loser is Kamala Harris. Why is that? Because she was camouflaging her lies and real Marxist ideology behind those platitudes and shallow promises all night. I mean, a lot of lies last night. Haven't seen any fact checks. I don't know whether the mainstream media will have any ability to honestly fact check the lies she told about Donald Trump. There's plenty wrong with Donald Trump, but the things that she said, the important policy matters that she lied about, make her my loser of the week. John?
Let's see. I've got I think we'll call him a loser. Then we've got your call, winner or loser, and then a real winner. So the losers, Columbia High School kids who had to stand outside for about an hour at Battle, Hickman, and Rockbridge for a couple days this week as the new metal detectors were in place and they weren't quite up to speed. Here's the one, winner, loser, your call. Some University of Missouri students, the Legion of Black Collegians, having to change the name of their Welcome Black Barbecue to Welcome Black and Gold Barbecue, which I don't know.
Yeah.
Your call, whether that's a deal to die on or not. It's still a barbecue. And then our winner of the week, Columbia Police Officers Association's Matt Nichols on the radio with us yesterday morning, told city leaders, if you don't want to run off the good cops, shut up, shut your mouth.
Wow. There you go. I think so. That was a compelling interview yesterday. It was really great to have Matt call in. No doubt about that. Yeah, I thought those poor... Did they have the thing straightened out at the Columbia schools now? Has it gotten better?
They said, they told us Wednesday that the wait times were less and said the kids need to be aware that you can't have your 3-ring binder and laptop and all that in your bag. It needs to be out while they run you through. And it seems like, okie dokie.
Yeah. But do you think that, I mean, I was going to ask, I didn't include them in my losers list, but, and I want to be kind about this because obviously people who are party faithful, pretty much they're all in for whatever happens at a big event like a convention, right? Do you think that in a way, though, the people who sat there and cheered on Kamala as she said Donald Trump owned 2025, Project 2025, which is a lie, and that she's going to secure the border and sign that border bill, which is the best thing ever since pop-up Kleenex, which is nothing about real border security. In a way, are they losers because they don't know better? I mean, because
they're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess so. Well, okay, so
I have another couple winner of the weeks.
I have, yeah, go ahead. I have another loser. Go ahead.
Winners of the week, winner of the weeks, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Walsh, who of course is a Daily Wire radio host. You can hear him on the Eagle at weekday evenings. And the comedian that duped all of us, including Randall, Alex Stringer from Texas.
I should have looked that up.
They have been undercover at the DNC this week, trolling the event attendees.
It was late. I was prepping late. I got caught in a
Listen,
hurry.
like I said yesterday in your defense, what the comedian was saying is not far off from where...
No, we all bought it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just you.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. It tells you two things, right? That was even under the umbrella of reasonable.
Yeah, the fact that it was believable in of itself.
But secondly, that it's I think it highlights what we're really going to all have to be careful of going forward, and that is, I mean, with AI and everything. Have you seen some of the AI memes that are out there now?
There you go.
I saw one the other day that someone has posted that makes it look like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are doing an armed robbery. Did you see that one? They're wielding guns, and they're, sort of like a surveillance camera looking. I mean, it looks so realistic. You go, now, obviously, we know that's not true.
Does it,
No,
though?
but, I mean, if they can do that. Did you see the one? There was another one out there with the call between Harris and Walls when she calls him and asks him to be. You've seen that one, right?
The one where she goes, well, you weren't my first choice. You weren't my second. You were probably my 10th. And nobody wants to accept the nomination because I'm going to get my butt handed to me in November. But do you want to be my vice presidential running mate?
I know.
And he says, I'd be honored to be.
It goes on and on and on. Well, here's one that I could say is a real bona fide loser.
If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No. We don't get to change the rules, so we always win.
Excuse me, Michelle. You and Barack preside over the biggest grievance party and grievance political ideology that exists on the planet. It's all about grievance. And secondly, remember the rules that were changed in how many of the states across the fruited plains? I mean, I think every state made accommodations, and you engineered things to your own advantage with send-out ballots that people could manipulate and at the nursing homes and bundle together. And you're trying to eliminate RFK, who, by the way, will be speaking later today. We don't know if he's going to announce that he's out and endorsing Trump. We'll keep an eye on that. They're both in Arizona, Trump and RFK. So and then she also made another comment, did Michelle, about the wealthy people, and we don't believe in taking some to make them rich while the others struggle. How many houses you own worth how many millions of dollars, and you got how many airplanes and helicopters and everything else? Come on, Michelle. You're a hypocrite. You're a loser.
She got the big finger wag going on.
Oh, boy, she got the finger wagging, didn't she? Woo. Yeah, it's just really, really troubling.
And
anyway,
then they fly back to their home in Hawaii and hit the paddle boards.
I saw I saw a story about Callaway County. I think this started last evening. They were looking for a couple people that ran their car into a Montgomery County law enforcement agent. We're going to report on that when we come back on the leftover segment, so stay tuned on that. I know, John, I don't know if you have anything on it. I think Murph's looking at it. But
we're going to see if we have any update on it.
Okay, we'll get an update. scolded him, essentially, accusing him of sour grapes for not doing the rulemaking to follow up on his executive order of a few weeks ago, prohibiting the distribution sale of this Delta 8 stuff and other related non-cannabinoid but cannabinoid effect products that are often masqueraded as candy and just with a likeness on the packaging that looks exactly the same. And so basically accusing Jay Ashcroft of sour grapes because Governor Parson endorsed Mike Kehoe, and of course Jay lost the election for the nomination for governor, and on and on and on. I don't know. I've had a communication from Jay's people that say that's absolutely not the truth. So you'll want to listen in. That'll be at 8:00 on Monday. Scott Fawn will be at 7:00. Don't miss that. Coming now, Mike Murphy from the Zimmer News Network and reporting all morning. You've heard him at the top and the bottom of the hour, comes in now with some news. And I know John and Mike, you've been looking at this. Mike, what's the latest on this Callaway County chase?
I don't think there is too
much.
much.
Sorry. Go.
I don't think there is too much latest. Callaway deputies are looking for a man and a woman who apparently crashed their car into a Montgomery County deputy last night and then took off on foot. I can't imagine that they're pulling this off for this long. Usually, usually doesn't take too long. But this is east of Kingdom City, so it's a bit of a way away. It's where the Route Z the search is around the Route Z interchange with I-70. That's about 8 miles east of Kingdom City. Their Callaway deputies are asking residents to lock their vehicles and report any suspicious activity. There's no description out from Callaway of what they're wearing or what they look like or anything like that. So that's what's going on. They issued they put out a Facebook post here just a minute ago, and that's kind of got this in the news.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting.
Yeah, kind of.
What possesses someone to ram your car? You wonder if he was trying to arrest them or restrain them or something. And then we've seen this. I remember a case in St. Louis that happened at a fast food place or something where, there was at a drive-through and someone, rammed a police officer and they ran away. What are they thinking?
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny. They're not going to, we'll see. I don't think they're going to make it. This just happened earlier this week down in Osage County in Lynn.
That's right.
The guy made it for, how long did he last, Marsh? He was out there for 24 hours or something. They had drones after him. They had dogs after him. It's like, then they finally came
Canceled a day of school.
Yeah. Then they come up with them. So
I don't know. John, you have anything on your leftover plate?
That's pretty much it on that one anyway, because, where we were at on that one, we do have a couple other ones to throw in, but 3 Tiger football standouts get some SEC preseason honors, none other than Luther Burden, Armand Membo, and Cameron Johnson, all named to the preseason coaches, all SEC team. So how about that?
Yeah, that's important stuff. What do you have, Hannah?
Well, this is another reminder that this is the last weekend for our Gear Up for Grades school supply drive that Family Pawn and Simmons Bank and Club Car Wash have been helping us out with. So final weekend to get your supplies in. A lot of school districts went back to school this week, and it never fails. Your kiddos come home with a list from their teacher or something that you maybe forgot to buy on the school supply list. So if you're out and about this weekend going to pick up the last few items that you might need, maybe consider picking up a couple extra items to donate to our school supply drive. I will be at the Hy-Vee on Broadway in Columbia Saturday, tomorrow, from 10 a.m. to noon. And then our friend Scotty will be out there noon to 2. So
cool.
10 to 2 tomorrow, Hy-Vee, Broadway location. Come out and see us, and you can also donate online if you want us to do the shopping for you.
Oh, nice. And we know Hannah likes to shop. So she'll shop for you.
Especially if it's pumpkin spice lattes.
You remember the arrest down in front of Nash Vegas? I think it's 2 weeks ago now. That was the shooting. The assault, I should have said. No, the assault.
No,
it was a punch in the face.
That's right, punch in the face.
Yeah, there's a really clear video of it out that's really made the rounds, so a lot of people have looked at it. Anyway, police made an arrest. CPD made an arrest yesterday. They got 19-year-old David Jeremiah Moore booked in jail.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
Good. John, what do you have?
And we're involved. We had them in studio about a week ago. We're involved with the young professionals, the Leadership Jefferson City bunch of the Jefferson City Chamber. The Battle of the Brews is tomorrow at the Jefferson City Fairgrounds, and it It's a fundraiser for the Sneaker Project and the Special Learning Center. So come on out. We'll all be out there and
that's great.
Sample the fare.
All right. You never sample any of the fare, do you, John? You just leave it for all of the attendees.
I've been told that I'm a judge, so I'll have to sample and spit it out.
I want to remind everyone who wants to get a freeze on their property real estate taxes pursuant to that new law. They've had over 3,200 applications for that senior real estate tax credit. It would freeze your property taxes at 2024 levels. I pulled the application
in Boone County.
In Boone County, this is Boone County, and I think her name was Melissa. Forgive me, Melissa, if you're listening. But I called the office. I said, this page and title number and deed, is it a deed of trust? Is it a whatever? Because they want to know the book and page number. And she had it like this: what's your name? What's your address?
Yeah.
I mean. And they will notarize it for you. I mean, this is actually a very easy process, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're over 62 and you're eligible for that, would make you eligible. So, if you're considering that, go ahead and do it. I pulled it just to see how tough it was going to be.
Yeah, no good reason not to do it. That's for sure. Get your property taxes capped.
Should I feel guilty about that?
Not a bit. Do you feel guilty when you pay as little bit of income tax as the government requires you to by their?
But I guess I've told Hannah not to feel guilty if her student loan debt's forgiven.
I don't think she should feel guilty either.
Even though we could debate whether or not. I think everyone ought to get a real estate property tax decrease. But I guess take it while it's there.
I know we just
start somewhere.
I know we just have a few seconds left here, but something funny I forgot to mention.
What's that?
I got a credit report the other day.
Yes.
Saying that some more debt had been added to my name.
Yeah.
And I finally looked at it yesterday, and my student loan somehow got duplicated on my credit report.
Oh, no.
So now I have double the student loans.
And I'll bet you wherever you'd like to go for a nice steak or